Hello, ladies. How are you guys doing tonight? I'm so excited to be here. I'm beyond honored that Delilah welcomed me to her team page and asked me to go live for you guys and share some of my story and how I make this business work while juggling a 9-to-5, which I know a lot of us do, right? Because most people aren't just sitting around waiting for a direct sales business to fall in their lap, right? Most of us find this while working some other job or being a full-time mom, multiple things. But let me get started by saying I am Brittany Baumgartner. I am right now a countess with Senegence. I started back in January, the end of January, and I'm now a countess with a team of sales of $50,000. So we're doing quite well. And my goal is obviously to be a crown princess by the end of the seminar year in April, and then some. We are Costa Rica qualified for myself and a guest, and I'm also driving around in my Senna Blue Senna car. I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee that I love. And a little bit about me personally, I have a boyfriend and I have a Morkie, a little dog. I've locked him out of the room because he usually needs a lot of attention. So I'm a dog mom, crazy dog mom, and I also love wine. And I love to work. So that is one thing about me, is that I love to hustle. I love work. I like feeling accomplished. I feel like I love going to bed knowing I own the day. And so I'm going to share some of that, of how I make that work while working my full-time job. So for my job, I work for a Fortune 500 company, but really a Forbes top 3 company in the entire world. So a very great and prestigious company, but that obviously comes with a lot of stress and expectations and time, right? So I'm able to make this work by being really clear-minded about what I want to get done, both in this business, each month, and each day. So I wrote out some tips so I can literally not only give you motivation, but to give you some tips and tricks of how I make it work, and able to build a basically $1 million business while working another full-time job. That's 40 plus hours a week. So number one is you must know why you are doing this, right? You have got to know why you are here, right? That why is so important. It's so important if you even want to make this a hobby, right? So I'm sure you've seen the fact that it's you're either interested or you're committed, right? And I love that one. I asked my team that multiple times. Are your actions showing interest or showing commitment, right? You can ask yourself that almost on a weekly basis. And give yourself a gut check, right? I'm not perfect all the time. Well, never, but I'm not perfect with my business all the time. I'm not perfect with posting and recruiting and all that good stuff all the time. And I let time, like anyone else, I let time get away from me, right? So I can give myself a gut check every single week at the end of it and say, like, did I do what I needed to do to move my business? Another question, if you're leading a team or want to lead a team, a good question to ask yourself is, if my team did what I did this week, would I be satisfied or proud of them, right? Basically, never ask your team to do something that you're not willing to do. So I have to ask myself, like, if my whole team's doing what I did today, is our team moving forward? Like, am I helping them grow? And if those answers are no, then I'm going to have to step up my game. If they're doing yes, then I can keep doing what I'm doing, right? So give yourself like a little gut check there, but you got to know why you're here. Many personal development books go through this, but personal development is by far the number one tip I can give you. If you're not reading that or listening to it every single day, your business is going to reflect that. It's going to stagnate. Personal development is so critical, so much so, like I am a junkie. I was in another direct sales business before this business, so I had built an online following, which definitely has helped me in this business as well. But I had done a business, and that is by far the number one most amazing blessing that business gave me, was even knowing what personal development was and instilling it in the fact that I'm proud to do it, because most people think they don't need it. I was that person in the first few months of that previous business, thinking, yeah, I don't need that. All right, my mind's all right. I got this. But you don't, because our minds can wander. So personal development would be like that, just goes without saying, right? So when I talk, just so you know, when I talk about my daily tasks and to-dos that I do, that I don't even consider that a to-do, because it's a given, right? Just like eating and, you know, other things, and showering. Personal development is just a given that I do anyways. But know why you're here. But tons of personal development books address this, right? And Get Over Your Damn Self addresses it in a great way, directed to a business like this. So I really, really, really encourage you to read that book. And when there's activities, and read that book. There's a lot of books that I can recommend on audio that I listen on Audible, but I really believe that that book is one that should be read, because there's activities that go along with it, and I think you really need to take the time to do those. So, Get Over Your Damn Self will help you define your why and peel away the onions. So know why you're here in the short term and why you're here in the long term, right? So I say I joined this business to make $500 a month. This is what I was making in my previous business, and I needed that to be able to do anything beyond my bills, right? My bills were paid by my corporate salary, but I didn't have flexibility to go on trips or go out to dinner with my girlfriends without stressing about, like, are we splitting the bill, or am I just paying for my items, right? Who's been there where you're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna order another drink and then I'm gonna have to pay for some of it, right? So I was that tight on funds. So that was my immediate need, right? I needed to make $500. But the real reason I'm here, beyond that, is to pay off debt, to get debt free, because I had 6 figures in student loan debt and credit card debt, you know, and on and on and on. And I want to be debt free by the time I get married, so I can move into my marriage debt free, but also because when I have children, I want to stay home with them, right? And I can't do that if we have debt that still needs to be paid off, right? So it's a stepping stone. So I know why I'm here for the $500, and I'm going to hustle to hit that, but I'm here in the long term because there's this goal and dream and vision that I have for myself, right? So it's 2 separate things. What do you really need in the immediate that you can probably write down and hustle, either retail or grow your team? And then what's the big kahuna that you're working for, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? You're not going to hit it in the next 12 months, right? I'm not going to hit that in the next 12 months. I'm not even going to have a kid in the next 12 months, let alone hitting that business goal. But when that point in my life comes around, I'll have the choice to be able to do that, right? I do this for freedom, to be able to have the options. So know why you're here, because it's going to get tough, right? It's going to test you. It's going to push you to the limits when you're doing your job and you think you're failing at both sides, right? Who's been there working a 9 to 5 where you're hustling during the day and you feel like you're kind of giving half or 3/4 of yourself, and then you go to your business and you think you're giving half and 3/4 of yourself. I know, I've been there. Woosah, right? Like, and focus on the most important thing, right? So there's some weeks in my full-time job that are more important. Like, I have deadlines and I have people coming in from out of town that I have to talk to, and presentations. My business might need to go a little bit, not away and not ever away. Don't you ever not post in your shop. That is easy. It takes 2 minutes. I'm saying I might not be, you know, making the best post about the business opportunity and things like that, because my focus is elsewhere, and you're just going to have to accept that, right? So you're going to have to accept that your mind is going to have 2 functions, right? And you're going to have to put on 2 different hats at different points of the day, right? And I think that comes with time and experience, but know that it's part of the crazy. And yes, you're going to feel like jumbled up all the time, but know that you're doing enough, right? So go back to that gut check and then say, am I trying? I love this one too. It's, if you can look at the end of the day, you're like, did I try? Did I hustle? There's a difference between working and being exhausted from doing nothing and actually taking action and like doing the things, like I'll talk later, the income producing activities, right? You can get really busy doing things like scrolling Facebook and feeling like you're constantly hustling all day long, but you're not actually accomplishing anything, right? That's the worst feeling. I can say that I've been there many times, especially in the beginning, because your wheels are turning and you're learning and all this stuff, and you're actually not getting anything done because you're learning a lot, but that's getting something done. So maybe it's watching a video or 2 a day, but don't watch 16, right? Cut it off somewhere, because you got to do some income producing activities. So know why you're here, and ask yourself this question. I'm going to ask it at the end again because it's my favorite question ever. So I do a lot of gut checks if you haven't noticed. What is the pain you will continue to feel if you give up? What is the pain that you're experiencing now or when you started that you will continue to feel if you give up on your dreams, if you give up on this business? What will your life look like, right? And I know the pain that I'll feel. I will have babies and I will be going to a 9-to-5 because we can't afford to live with one income, right? And that's just not an option. And it's just simply not an option for me. So I continue to hustle even when it's crazy, even when I miss goals, even when, someone says they're going to sign up and they don't sign up and all that good stuff. I keep going because it is simply not an option to give up on this one, right? So that is a seriously good gut check for anyone because it's going to test your mind, right? Now that we've got that out of the way, you know why you're here. Now let's get to work. So number 2 would be let others know why you're here, right? When I first started this business, I sat down with my boyfriend, Jake, and I said, I want to do this lipstick business. And he was like, why? He had no idea why I would want to pick up another business, especially because I wasn't really into makeup. I hadn't even bought the product yet, right? I had never tried lip sense before I signed on and started selling it. But I knew that this was for some reason, I had this feeling and I was like, this is a crazy good business opportunity. Our compensation plan, you guys, is insane. So I looked and researched on the compensation plan and I was like, yep, this is the way that we're going to make this happen. So I told Jake and I basically said, get on board with me and give me this much time to prove to myself and to you that this is truly a business, right? And it's worth my hustle. And I basically said, it's going to require me to not be around as much, right? So when I got in a relationship with him, I basically pulled away or stopped a lot of my previous business because my heart wasn't really in it. So while I was technically in the business, I wasn't proactively super working it the whole time we were in a relationship, which is now close to 2 years. So he didn't really understand what the entrepreneurial life looked like, and I knew what it meant, which means lots of early mornings, late nights, sacrifice. I'm going to have to be in my office here working while he's out there, doing whatever, watching TV, wishing I was there with him. So I had that open conversation, right? And I said, the reason I'm doing this business is to pay off my debt, right? And so he knows why I'm here. So if it's for your family, let your spouse or whoever know why you're here. What are you working to? What's that immediate thing that you're going to do within the next 2-3 months? And then after that, what's the next thing that you're working towards, right? Keep them involved. Let them know you need that support from your family because without it, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a really big battle. And I'm super appreciative that I have my family's support, but you really need to ask for it. They're not just going to organically give it to you, right? So, ask for their support, let them know why you're here, let them know what you're working towards, keep them clued in. Like the fact that today, our PV skyrocketed overnight when the month ended yesterday, and today I said to Jake, our team is at 640 something PV, right? Our team. It's not my team, it's our team because I'm building this for us, right? So, and I tell them what our girls have done. So I'm bringing them in, I'm cluing them in on it, kind of just like when I listen to personal development on Audible. I also listen in our Senna Jeep, and he listens to personal development, whether he likes it or not. I put it on, unapologetically. And so I'm kind of bringing him into that lifestyle slowly but surely, right? He's a guy's guy. He's out there watching football all day long. So it's baby steps, but bring your friends and family along with you. So that's a big one. That would be number 2. Let them know why you're here. And then every Sunday, Jake and I basically do a little gut check because obviously he works a full-time job too and he's in sales. So sometimes at night he has dinners or things like that. We do a Sunday pulse check of what's the week gonna entail. So I tell him I have to go live on Tuesday night, or I'm doing a shop the stock on this night. So I'm going to be up in my office those times, or I'm doing one-on-ones for my distributors. So I'm not going to be available after dinner on Tuesday, something like that, right? So I basically let him know when I'm working. He lets me know when he's going to dinners or has happy hour after work, things like that. So we kind of plot out the week so nothing's really unexpected. You don't want them to be resentful of the fact that you're working all the time, right? So be mindful of that too, and I'll get to that too. Number 3 is be really realistic with your daily expectations, right? And your monthly goals. So say last month you hit Maiden, you recruited 2 people and your sales volume was, $15,000 or something like that. Great, fantastic. This month, so you recruited 2 last month, let's, either do the same or up it a notch. Let's say 3 this month, maybe 4. But don't set yourself up for failure and tell yourself that you're going to go from 2 recruits to 6 or 10, right? And then all of a sudden take your retail sales from 400 to 1,500. Let's be realistic here. I think sometimes that we can set ourselves up for failure because we're making our goals based on what other people are doing. Those who are working this business full time, or maybe a stay-at-home mom and their kids are at school during the day and they have focused time that you probably don't really get as much. So be realistic with like what you can do, while at the same time setting higher expectations for yourself. But be realistic. Don't set yourself up for failure, because then you're just going to get down on yourself. And also set realistic daily expectations of what you can achieve in the day. And this comes with practice, right? Of course, I'm going to make 2 live videos, and I'm going to make this training document, and I'm going to message 6 people if they want a fall color, and then I get to like 4 messages and 1 post that day, right? I've definitely been there. I do it all the time. But I have to realize I have to go back to that question of like, did I do something and do I feel accomplished in the day, regardless of the fact that I had wanted to do 25 things. And I'll get to another way I handle this as well. So just be realistic. And that comes with time of like what is possible, and also be realistic with your week. How I had mentioned, work might be more intense one week and then less intense another. Then set your expectations depending on that. All right, number 4, each night, this is one of my best tips, each night, going along with the realistic theme, define tomorrow's to-do list. Yeah, every night, sit down with your pen, and this is my favorite calendar scheduler. It's a day designer. See? Day designer planner. And the reason I love it, and I got it 2 years ago when I was in my last business, and I still love it to this day, even for life and not even so much business, is the fact that on every day, see how it says the day, and there's a nice cute quote and bills due or whatever, but here it's today's top 3. So that means you have 3 things, make sure I hold up the right number of fingers, that you have to get accomplished tomorrow. And these are the non-negotiables, right? These 3 things must happen or else. There's a ramification for it, right? And it might include, like some days if I go back here, one was uploading videos to YouTube from a training I did with my team. And then one was to call my CPA about my taxes. And the other one was to call a company outside of my business, not dealing with my business, to ask for a refund for something or whatever. But regardless, there was 3 things that needed to happen that day. It might be to pay a bill, or, paying a bill is minor, but if it's a more like looking into the bill and all that kind of stuff. But I love, like today, it's posting recognition for my team for the last month, posting an incentive for this month coming up, and then organizing my business receipts. Like these 3 things needed to happen, or else I couldn't get other stuff done in the week, right? Or in the month. So I love my top 3 to-do list, because anyone can handle 3 things. You can't handle 16 things, right? So those 3 things need to get done. Do not settle. And then if you don't get it done, then you can move it to the next day, right? And if it's been on there like for 2 or 3 days and you haven't gotten it done, chances are it really doesn't need to get done, right? So we can eliminate some stuff from our to-do list. A to-do list of 10 things is overwhelming. A to-do list of 3, you can totally do that. So Day Designer Planner, this one is about $50 or $60, and with shipping I think it comes to around $70, so it's not cheap. It's a tax write-off, it's a business write-off, so keep the receipt. They also make a cheaper one, not bound quite as nice, and I think it's missing some things, but it's at Target. It was at Target last year, and I'm hoping it's going to be at Target this year, because I'm going to gift some of my distributors with it, because it's still set up the same. It still has that top 3 to-dos, and I think that's like, I would pay $70 just for that, because it keeps me on track. So that is one of my top tips, is doing the night before, writing your to-dos. Then, this is my favorite one, is number 5, the morning is your best friend. Yeah, regardless of your personal preference on if you're a night person or a morning person, y'all, become a morning person. Just giving it to you real. You're going to have to like the mornings. You're going to have to start to embrace waking up before anyone else is when the crickets are chirping and it's pitch black out, right? Miracle Morning, personal development book. You can listen to it. I actually prefer listening to it than reading it. Miracle Morning changed my whole perspective on the mornings. I'm a morning person, so I'm going to be real with you. I like it regardless. I like waking up early. Always have, always will. So I like mornings, but I was listening to this book, and so say I have to wake up, when I was listening to it, I have to wake up at 6:30 in order to just get my day done and head out the door for work, right? That meaning like wake up, take the dog for a walk. We live in a condo complex, so I literally have to like go down the hall and yada yada to take my dog on a walk. So it's much more than just like opening the back door, sadly. And so I take the dog on a walk. I do morning chores, like, you know, cleaning the dishes up, whatever it may be, getting my workout, wake up my boyfriend because he's not a morning person, jump in the shower and, you know, get out the door and get to work and do the public transportation commute. So I have to wake up around then. So I was thinking I'll wake up at 5. That'll give me an hour in the morning, right? That'll give me an hour of solid work when no one's bothering me. And that's the difference on mornings, you guys. When you wake up before everyone else, you can blissfully work on your computer and focus and get done before Facebook notifications start popping up and inundating you, right? If I get up and I work, I notice about 6:30 the notifications start pinging, and then they don't stop until like 12 o'clock at night, right? They just don't stop because more people are night people than they are morning people is what I've found. So more people comment at night, so then it's just never ending. But the mornings, most people don't enjoy, so it's quiet and I can work and get stuff done, right? So that is the difference, is that you have some unbothered time to get stuff done in the morning. But what I found out is I was thinking I'll get up at 5 and then I'll have an hour, right? Well, not really. By the time I made my coffee and sat down and everything, really, and I do notifications, so everyone has a different perspective on this. In the book, they'll tell you about how you should listen to personal development and do your mindset and all that stuff first thing in the morning. Honestly, I get up and I get to work. I gotta get to work. I have to like do things, and I can work on my mindset and things during the day, but if we're working 9 to 5s, we don't have time to sit there for like a half an hour and like namaste and like get in the mindset. At least I don't. So I'd like to get to work and get those 3 things done as soon as the morning starts and as soon as I can, so that I feel accomplished for the day. So in the book, he will tell you to like work on your mindset and give yourself time and all that. I don't listen to that part. I've tried it. It hasn't really worked for me. So also note, in the Miracle Morning, find what works for you. But the whole premise is waking up early. So by the time I woke up and I check all my notifications, got my coffee and everything and sat down, it was like 5:20, 5:25. So I really didn't have an hour of uninterrupted time. So I moved my wake up time to 4:30 in the morning. Yes, 4:30. So I wake up every single day at 4:30 on the weekdays, and then the weekends it's a little bit later, but my body will basically wake me up by 6. So I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I can check my notifications, I can do my coffee, and I can be at my desk sitting, working by 5 o'clock, and I have till like 6:30 to crush the day. And that is when I accomplish those 3 things. That is when I move my business. That is when someone asks, no, I do not use a scheduling tool because I just don't like them. I don't like the way they look on Facebook. I don't like the fact that it says like Tiny Torch or things like that. And I also like to post based on my moods, my days, the color of the day, what I'm wearing, things like that. I know it works for a lot of people to sit down and schedule everything on Sunday. I'm just not like that way. I like to post my organic excitement. So I post in the morning, right? So I make sure I post on my team page early in the morning. Oh my gosh, mornings. You guys gotta embrace the mornings. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? Like if you wake up at 7, you're not gonna all of a sudden go to 4:30 or 5. You have to do it incrementally, and those first 2 weeks of doing it are painful. I will tell you, I will admit. Going earlier, you're just like yawning at like 1 in the afternoon. You're like, what is wrong with me? But it becomes normal, right? You eventually get used to it. I'm not saying it's super easy or super pleasant, but the more, and then you have to make yourself mindful of what time you go to bed too. So you guys who are waking up at 7 or 7:30, you're probably going to bed later. You're gonna have to move up that bedtime, right? You can't still go to bed at 11 or 12. I go to bed 10:30 at the latest. So that gives me 6 hours of sleep. And a cool fun fact in the book, and I know I'm going really long, but basically your body, this is funny because my boyfriend insists that he needs 8 hours of sleep. And while I love 8 hours of sleep, in the book it basically says you need as much sleep as you tell yourself you need. So if you need 8 hours and you wake up under 8 hours, even if your body is technically refreshed, you're going to feel less refreshed because you're telling your mind that you needed the 8 hours. So if you switch it, I've been telling myself I only need 6 hours of sleep a night, and then eventually after like those first 2 weeks, I feel totally fine with 6 hours of sleep. And 8:30 is still late enough that I can watch a TV show with him or work my business or do a live video. You know, it's not like I'm going to bed at 7 o'clock at night, though that sounds delightful. So mornings, listen to the book. It's going to change your mindset. It's going to call you out. I think that was a good reality check and just like, Brittany, you got to do this. And I will say my business is thriving since doing that one trick. And then I accomplish my 3 and then I feel accomplished for the whole day. That way, if my whole day is a cluster F at work and I'm mentally drained by the time I get home and I have to have a glass of wine and cook dinner and HelloFresh arrived and all that good stuff, and I never get to work my business another minute in the day, I'm moving my business forward. I moved my business forward before 6:30 in the morning when everyone else was sleeping. That is how a girl boss builds an empire while working a 9 to 5, my friends. That is the number one trick, right? Think about it that way. You have to do what other people are not willing to do if you're going to be an entrepreneur. You are going to have to sacrifice. Sleep is definitely one of them. You, my friend, are going to need to do things while others are sleeping and not doing a gosh darn thing. You're going to have to be different, and you're just going to have to do it. Because I'm not going to say, if this is real, you are not going to accomplish what I accomplish if you wake up and try to put it in your workday and family life and all that stuff the rest of the day. That concentration time is just not going to happen. And so you can schedule things. I don't do it just because I don't like to. I like stream of thought. I like my passion to come through. I will say that's a difference. I feel like sometimes you can tell when people have scheduled posts because the passion doesn't come through as much. But with that said, there's nothing wrong with using stock photography from some of the graphics groups. And if you're going to do a color of the day, maybe you highlight it, on yourself, like you take the selfies one week and then you make a post every other day using those, and just talking about the color itself, or maybe like a skincare item. Those ones, maybe the passion doesn't have to come through nearly as much as like a new color release and things like that. So a little bit different, but you can totally post with a scheduler. All right, number 6, and I have 2 more. Focus on income producing activities. You don't have time to waste, right? We don't have time to waste, which is why those top 3 things are the really important ones to get done in your day to move your business forward. So income producing activities are things like following up with previous customers to see if they want a new fall color, asking people about the business opportunity, going live in your shop to bring value and education to your customers. Scrolling Facebook is not an income producing activity. Making your custom graphics. I mean, I make ones of selfies with me with this color, and I would post like underneath with word swag what combination it was. That's as custom as I get. I don't like go into, for the most part, Sena Graphics and create all these custom graphics with all these bundles and stuff. I leave that up to those people in those groups that do all the work for me. And when I find one that I like and I use it, right? Like, don't spend your time making these detailed custom graphics that people usually look at for 2 seconds and then keep scrolling, right? Focus on those ones of reaching out to people, making connections, having great posts on your personal Facebook page to do that attraction marketing, right? Work on those ones. Work on your Facebook Live skills, right? Try it with your friend, things like that. Those are the income producing ones that you have to focus on, because it's really easy to get inundated with the minutia of the day-to-day, especially when you start leading a team, as leadership takes a lot of time. But you got to realize that you have to focus on your business first, right? Focus on your business first, and also focus on your first line first and educating them. So that's an income producing activity too, is educating your first line. So that's the next one. Number 7, like I just mentioned, is you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice, right? This is not going to come, like you're not doing this And I know some of us probably wish that we got to do this while our spouse or significant other or whatever, or kids were at school and we could do it during the day. And then at night, it would just be like a little fairy tale and we could have dinner and take the kids to activities and all that kind of stuff. But it's not going to be like that because you're working a 9 to 5, right? So you're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice some, some social situations. Sometimes Jake has to go to a part of your social engagement without me simply because I have stuff to get done. Like I have to say no. And then you got to learn when is it okay to say no to them and when do you just got to give in and maybe not get something done in your business, right? There's those trade-offs that you're going to have to go through. So that's one. Sometimes you can't always be everywhere, do everything for your business and for your family life too, but you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice some sleep, some personal engagement, some sanity. I'm not going to say I haven't kind of like lost my marbles, forgot to call my mom when she was sick. Might have done that last week because I was so wrapped up in my 2 jobs. Yeah, you're not going to be perfect, so you got to grant yourself some grace. Felt really guilty about that one. So, and just being real. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, and you're not always going to feel like you're crushing the game in your personal life and your business and your corporate job. Something's always going to fall a little short. And you got to be willing to tell yourself that what you're doing and sacrificing right now is going to be worth it in the long run, right? And then you're going to be able to be physically there or present more or whatever you want it to be, right? So, also be willing to take a day off. So I will sacrifice my Saturdays or Sundays, depending. Right now it's football season, so Jake's watching football all day Sunday, which is fantastic because then I work my business on Sundays. But during the other times, I would work my business on, I take off on Saturday or vice versa, take off on Sunday and work on Saturday. Vice versa, I do work on the weekends because I kind of just have to catch up on things I didn't accomplish or things I want to do that take maybe a little bit more time than an hour in the morning. But take a day off. Take a day off to be present, just to be sane, right? So take a day off. Your hands will thank you for not being attached to like that screen constantly. Take a day off and allow yourself that and know that you need it just as a human, right? And then last but not least, like I've mentioned before, accept the fact that you are not like everybody else. You are not like everybody else at your job. Being an entrepreneur requires hustle and it requires heart, it requires sacrifice, it requires commitment. It's going to, like I mentioned, put you to the test mentally, physically, all kinds of things. You just need to accept that people might make fun of you, people might criticize, talk about you funny, saying like, oh, you make good income here, why are you doing something else? Or you should just focus on your job because that's what pays the bills and things like that. Like, nah, mama. I hear this all the time, like all the time. My family's always like, are you making sure you're doing your job? Because that's the important one. Like, yeah. So, gotta realize that everyone is not going to see it the way that you see it. Know why you're here. Goes back to my tip number 1, know why you're here, why you're committed, and know that it's worth it, right? It's going to be worth it. Make sure you're doing those income producing activities and that you're going to constantly be setting the bar a little bit higher each month for yourself and moving forward progress, not perfection, just a little bit of progress every single month. I am more than happy to talk about this topic in more detail, give you any links and tips. I know this was quite lengthy, but I hope that helped some of you. Know that I have struggles too. It's not a pretty easy path, like definitely not. Have you seen that graphic with like the road to success and like what people think it's like and like what it really is? And it's like, up and down and all over the place. Like one day you think you're crushing it and you're like, oh my gosh, I still have this, like, look at my little routine. And then 2 days later, you're like, what's going on with my life? Things are falling apart. It's totally like that. And I'm sure it's like that for everyone, not just people who work, right? But this is the most fun job. And I don't say that, I used to in the beginning say job because it's like one of those, this really isn't a job. This is like fun. And I play with makeup. This is a job. I sacrifice. I'm here. I hustle. I keep myself accountable, right? I'm constantly striving for more. This is a job. If you're treating it like a job, if you're committed and you're treating this like a job, you're going to see results. It's not a job, my little side gig. No, this is a real job. I treat it like a job. I work like close to 40 hours a week on this business, like 30 hours, hours a week. I work at least 2 to 3 hours a weekday on my business, and then depending on my weekends. So that means I'm spending at least like 15 hours during the work week, and maybe not 30, but close enough, right? So it's a job. It's not a job, side gig. No, it's a job. So that's why I put it in this title. This is how I make my 9 to 5 job and my girl boss hustle job work. So more than happy to talk. Feel free to private message me, reach out anytime. I don't do anything super special. I just remain consistent and committed, you know, every single day, and with the exception of those days that I give myself off. So hopefully you guys found this super helpful. If you have any questions, post them below, and I'll be able to answer you in the coming days. More than happy to help you guys. So I will talk to you ladies soon, and have a great night.